Welcome to episode 12 of I Thought I Knew How, a podcast about knitting and life and all sorts. I'm your host, Anne Frost, and this episode was recorded on July 13th, 2019. Today, I'd like to talk to you about dealing with the questions in the Master Hand Knitter program, the winner of the last giveaway and what's in the next giveaway, a bit about my time in New York so far, plus some music to knit by. Let's take care of the giveaway from episode 11. This was the big one made up of one item I picked up from each of the stores along the I-91 shop hop last month. There is bunches of yarn involved, as well as a few doohickeys and thingamajigs. US-based listeners could enter through Instagram or by emailing the show directly. Of all the entries, Siri picked number 124 as the winner, which lined up with Jasmine Wolverine. Congrats to you, Jasmine Wolverine. You should have heard from me already through Instagram. Please check there. You have 30 days to get me your address so I can send these goodies out to you. You might remember that I won a prize myself in the I-91 shop hop. I was able to go pick it up the day after the show posted. It was a very generous door prize from Knit New Haven that filled a good-sized shopping bag. There was a hank of Wonderland yarns, fingering weight wool in a lovely golden color that I actually almost bought for myself when I was in the shop, so I was very happy to see that I'd won it. 2 hanks of Tacky Yarns Classic Superwash with a pattern for a shawl. A booklet of patterns from Barocco with enough of their mantra silk to knit one of the smaller patterns. I think I'm going to use it for the cape. I've never knit a cape before, and this one in the pattern booklet is a lovely lacy cape that starts with a lot of open work at the top and sort of fades to a solid stockinette to the bottom. There was also a hank of Mrs. Crosby Loves to Play, which was a merino in a lovely midnight aubergine color. And finally, 4 balls of Bella Cash by Universal Yarn in brown and white with a pattern to knit it up into a marled hat. But I don't wear a lot of hats, so I think I'm going to look for something else for this yarn. Yeah, it's probably going to be a cowl. You guys know me. Anyway. It was a very generous prize, and I'm totally honored to have received it. So thanks again to Knit New Haven, and really to all the shops along the I-91 shop hop for offering the daily door prizes. They really made this experience more special, I know, for a lot of us who participated. If you're in the Facebook group for the show or follow me on Instagram, you should have seen some information about a few shop hops taking place. One of them's taking place in northern New England in the coming weeks. It's called the Great Northern Yarn Haul, and you can find the information for it linked in the show notes for this episode. There are 23 stores participating through Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. It's starting on the day that I record this, but it goes until August 4th, so you have a lot of time to participate if you're in that area. It looks like in the past, the stores have figured out their own prizes or gifts for participants, but then those who complete their passports are entered for a handful of larger prizes. I wasn't able to find the specific prizes for this year, but I imagine they're going to follow that same pattern. There's another shop hop coming up along the border of California and Nevada, and there was the Great Toronto Yarn Hop. Unfortunately, that one's going on today, so it's going to be done by the time this airs. But I did just now, before I started recording, go onto Facebook and I did a search for Yarn Hop, and a lot of results came up. Some of them happened earlier in the spring, but there are a lot of them going on between now and the fall. So if you're interested in taking part in a shop hop, go to Facebook and search for Yarn Hop and see if any come up in your area. And if not, like I said last time, sometimes the only thing that's stopping one from happening is that no one has started it. So maybe think about starting one in your area. While I was in New York this last week, I was able to get some work done on the Master Hand Knitter program. I'm very proud of myself. First of all, I got all the swatch worksheets done for swatches 1 through 3, and I finished up the papers that need to accompany those swatches, and then I sat down to deal with the questions that relate to those swatches. Every bit of information that you present in the program, either for a technique or to answer a question, has to be backed by 2 references from reliable sources. This has been such a mixed bag for me. First, I've been knitting for so long now that I already know a lot of the answers to the questions that they're asking. So I write out what I've been asked to explain, and then I have to go through the books and find the proof to back up what I said. And I realize that's backwards, and I don't think that this will continue through the entire program. But level 1 really covers the basic techniques. So I think anyone who has thoughtfully knit lace and cables and basic color work will know a lot of the answers without having to research the information as well. But it doesn't matter, because you have to find the information that backs up what you think you know anyway. And here's how it's a mixed bag. As I'm in the various knitting books I'm using as references, and I'll say now that the 3 I found to be the most helpful have been the Reader's Digest Knitter's Handbook, Vogue Knitting, their actual hardcover printed knitting book, and the Principles of Knitting. But as I was saying, as I'm in those books looking for proof of what I already know, I'm picking up all these little tidbits of information that I don't necessarily need to know right now. But now that I know that the information is there, I expect I'll be back in the books when I need them. For instance, this last week, I fell down a rabbit hole relating to different cast-on methods and the benefits of each. So often I just rely on the long tail cast-on, but there are dozens of ways to cast on, and they each have their own look and effect on the fabric. Some are tighter, some are looser. So part of me is annoyed that I'm having to find references for things that I feel like are common knowledge. And the other part of me is learning a great deal in the process. So it's almost like the program writers knew what they were doing. I tried to find some New York theme songs to play this week, since I'm in the middle of spending 4 days a week there with my daughter while she takes classes at the Fashion Institute of Technology, but I couldn't find anything explicitly New York related on the website I used to find music. So I've got a couple of songs this week that make me think New York-y things. One of the things I noticed as I was walking around the city this last week is how many times in all the hustle and bustle of the city, I look up and see a couple having a moment. It's easy in all the madness of New York to just keep your head down and get where you need to go. But when you start to look around, you catch glimpses here and there of people in the middle of their lives. And a lot of the time, that means you're getting flashes of people in love. Maybe it's a couple seated in the window of a restaurant listening intently to each other, or someone taking their companion's hand as they make their way through a crowd. I am not a fan of New York. It's too many people in one place for me, but these little glimpses of love remind me that it's not just people, it's lives. This song is You Shine on Me by Briand Adolphe Melanson, who also goes by Bam Tone.
The cold is finally gone. Well, I've been waiting for someone like you to come along. I was going down a road so dark and full of demons, I lost my ground. My heart was stuck in hibernating, stuck in the ice where there's no feeling. You shine on, you shine on, you shine on, you shine on me. You shine on, you shine on, you shine on, you shine on me. Your summer love thawed me out, melted all the fears I had and all the doubt. Now we have the wildest dreams. There's nobody I'd rather have to stand by me. My heart was stuck in hibernating, stuck in the ice where there's no feeling. You shine on, you shine on, you shine on, you shine on me. You shine on, you shine on, you shine on, you shine on me. You shine on, you shine on, you shine on, you shine on me. You shine on, you shine on, you shine on, you shine on me. You shine on, you shine on, you shine on, you shine on
I was working on a project a week or so ago, and I didn't have circulars that were the right length, so I went over to Margie's Yarn Crafts to find a set of size 3 24-inch circulars. Margie pulled out a few for me to look at, and I decided on a set of Knitter's Pride Karbonz, mainly to give them a try. They are about twice the price of the other options I had to pick from. I think they were in the neighborhood of about $13, but I have to say I am seriously loving them. The tips are brass, but they've been treated in however way they do that to make them silver in color. And then the main body of the needle is actually carbon fiber. So this intrigued me because the major complaint people have with circulars is about the join where the cable connects to the needles. So not only were these needles going to have that little potentially bumpy area at that join, but there was also a join on the needle itself where the tips connect to the carbon fiber. So I was curious enough to try them out and see how that was going to play out. I have to say, though, that these are the smoothest circulars I have ever used. Smooth, not slippery. I haven't had a problem with either the cable join or the join of the tip. The carbon fiber allows for enough grip that the stitches aren't slipping all over like they would with a purely metal needle, but they also slide along it like a well-made bamboo needle. I've used these for 2 projects so far, and they've been comfortable and efficient to the point that I just don't think about them, which I think is saying a lot because with some of my older circulars, I was always being reminded that I'm dealing with circulars because of those pesky joins or because the cable is kinking up on itself or whatever. These have just been smooth sailing. I have a ton of circulars. And I'm really to the point where I can afford to get rid of the ones that are giving me grief and replace them with some that have better engineering and design to them. I know I could get interchangeable needles, and I even recommend that beginners who love the craft invest in a good set of those. But honestly, I prefer to just have a circular that is designed to do what it's designed to do. Going forward, I'll be testing out my circulars, and the ones that have gotten banged up or just weren't great to begin with are going to get replaced with some Karbonz. I know it can be hard when you're in the store to decide whether it's worth it to pay a few more dollars for the pricier needles, and in some cases, you're just paying more for the look of the needle. But these Karbonz really impressed me with their functionality, so I wanted to let you know that in this case, they are worth the price tag. I don't like having an ad in every episode. Sometimes I like to bring your attention to a cause or an effort that we can make as knitters instead. And so today I want to make sure that everybody's aware of a website called knittingforcharity.org. If you are drowning in extra yarn or find yourself unsure of what needs to be knit next, this is a great resource for finding organizations who accept knitted goods as donations. So if you go to knittingforcharity.org, the website has a lot of free patterns that line up with the needs of many charities. They also have a search function that allows you to search for charities in your area. You can look for the theme of the charity that you would like and settle in on something, and then spend some time using up that extra yarn, the odds and ends that you have, to do some good for some people who are actively looking for knitted items. I know this last year I've had a lot of charity opportunities with my knitting. You might remember that I did the Innocent Hat Project, which is a UK-based charity. Well, it's not a charity. Innocent is a Coca-Cola owned company. I will be straightforward about that. But they do a fundraiser every year where they ask knitters and crocheters to make little hats that will fit on the bottles. And for every small hat that's donated, they will give 25 pence to Age UK, which is an organization in the United Kingdom that provide services for the elderly. So that was something that is recently near and dear to my heart. And so I was able to make over 100 hats and take them over with me to donate when my daughter and I went over in April. Later in the episode, we'll be talking about Harriets Head again. That's a different sort of charity opportunity. The Harriets Hat and now headband patterns are £4 each. And the donation in that aspect is in buying the pattern itself. And then the money from that goes to the Shetland MRI scanner appeal. However, if you find that you have knit yourself a Harriet's hat or headband and you have extra, you can also knit a second and send it to the MRI makers on Shetland, and then they will sell that hat to someone who's interested in owning a Harriet's hat and supporting the cause but is not a knitter. So that's another way that you can help out. A lot of the times in summer, we sort of lose our knitting mojo because of the heat and we're outside doing more things. But if you find that you are wanting to do some knitting this summer and don't quite know what, knittingforcharity.org is a great resource. So there is a lot going on in New York City for knitters. I have a list of different events that I'll be doing while I'm there, and I'll share them with you as I have been able to experience them. The first one I was able to do is on Tuesday from 1:30 to 3 in the afternoon at Bryant Park. Knitty City, which is a yarn shop in the city, hosts a gathering for knitters. When I was there this last week, I think there were probably somewhere between 40 and 50 people there. It was a good sized crowd. They have an area reserved over near the cafe. You just need to look. They have a stand with a sign on the top of it. I was in the area by 12:30 and had lunch at the Bryant Park Cafe. And then I made my way over to the area with the tables and umbrellas and sort of hung around until I saw knitting needles appear. And then I just walked over and introduced myself to a couple of the ladies at one of the tables, and they took me in. People came from all over the city. There were men and kids and people just passing, stopped by because they saw that there was a sign offering free knitting lessons. People were picking up needles and learning. It happens every Tuesday in the summer when it's not raining. So if you find yourself in the city, be sure to swing by and rest your feet with some of your fellow knitters. It's not that far from Times Square. So just to give you an idea of where it is in the city. As long as the weather is good, I'll be there for the next couple weeks, so come by and say hi if you're there. I was hoping to get out and see a yarn shop every day while I was in the city, but that has not been the case so far. They aren't conveniently located to our hotel, and I have had some work I've had to see to. But I did make it to the Lion Brand Yarn Studio, and it was way nicer than I expected it to be honest. I think I was just expecting it to be like a fancier version of Joann's with the same yarns as the big box stores carry, maybe a little more artfully arranged. And yes, they did have a lot of the Lion Brand workhorse yarns there, but they were almost an afterthought to the LB collection of yarns that was full of options that included luxury blends and hand-dyed yarns. I actually picked up 3 hanks of silk chiffon ribbon made from upcycled saris. Each hank is unique. I know this because I actually took them all out of the bin looking for any that matched one another because it's only 80 yards in a hank, and I was sort of worried that I'd not be able to find something to make with them. But I ended up getting 3 hanks of different looks to make something for me and my daughters. There were finished items on display in the store to highlight certain yarns, and the central table had yarns out for yarn tasting. The shop also carried bags and notions made by smaller manufacturers like Delaque, and it looked to me like there were some Katrinkles, tools, and stitch markers. But the jaw-dropping feature of the store was their window display. It was a seafloor scene complete with a hovering mermaid, a giant octopus, and jellyfish floating above. It was all crocheted and truly impressive. I got some photos, so I'll just send you to the show notes to have a look. It is worth the trip to see the window display in person if you happen to find yourself there before it changes for the fall. I am hoping to get to at least a handful of other shops this next week before the next episode, so I will be sure to share if I do. Here's another song for you. This one is a little lounge number in honor of my daughter, who loves all things vintage and has been walking around New York this last week in lovely vintage dresses that she sewed herself. This is Miss Wonderful from Mike Gaudreau.
I never thought I'd find true love. Impossible is counting the stars above, but when it hits you, all you can say is wow. I'm with Miss Wonderful now. Everything happens for a reason, they say. Oh, how you long to reach that day. But when the day comes, you wanna take a bow. I'm with Miss Wonderful now. I didn't think that love could be so grand, but it was all part of the master plan. When you finally make it through the storm, you feel like a baby that's just been born. I wish I had a crystal ball, and I would have never felt so small. But when my last gal gave up her vows, who cares, I'm with Miss Wonderful now. So grand, but it was all part of the master plan. When you finally make it through the storm, you feel like a baby that's just been born. I wish I had a crystal ball, and I would have never felt so small. But when my last gal gave up her vows, who cares, I'm with Miss Wonderful now. Miss Wonderful now. Miss Wonderful now.
A few more things before I go. Yeah, I'm going to talk about Harriet's Head again. It's just going to happen. You should just come to expect that it will be a thing until the Shetland MRI scanner appeal has the money they need to get the MRI scanner for Shetland. It's a problem with a simple solution, and I have been so impressed with the work that's been done to solve it. As of today, roughly 10% of the money that's been raised so far has come as a result of the efforts of the MRI makers, either through sale of knit goods, donations from yarn suppliers like Jamieson and Smith, or sales of the patterns for Harriet's hat and headband. And there are some exciting things on the horizon for the Harriet's Hat project that makes me think that the momentum is just going to continue to grow. I know I talk about the project a lot, but I'm honestly honored to be doing my bit to help raise awareness. If you haven't had a chance to participate yet, there is still time. First things first, though, the knit along that was sponsored by the Minnesota Knitters Guild is coming to a close on the 20th. If you're quick, you can still participate. Check out their Ravelry page. But there is another one starting up for either Harriet's Hat or Harriet's Headband that will be run by Morehouse Farm Merino. It's starting on July 26th, and I'll link to the information in the show notes. Because it's being sponsored by Morehouse Farms, the expectation is that you will use their yarn, but they are making a donation for every ball of yarn that you're buying for the project to the MRI scanner appeal as well. Their 2-ply yarn comes in 100-gram balls, whereas the pattern calls for 25-gram balls. So if you buy all 6 colors, you will end up with plenty of yarn for the hats. They currently have kits on sale if you're going for the established colors of the pattern. So you'll save some money if you just go with the 6 design patterns. But Erin Perot of Morehouse Farm Merino worked her swatch in 2 colors, a nice plummy color and a cream. And I think the pattern looks so neat just in the 2 colors that's what I'm planning to do for this knit along. I have ordered a hank of blackberry and of soft white, and I'm hoping to get 2 hats out of them with the colors reversed. And I think that these hats will end up as Christmas gifts. So one of the benefits of doing it in 2 colors will mean that they should work up faster and should be much quicker to weave in all the ends. Help me get my Christmas knitting done a little quicker. Another development over the last few weeks is that the MRI makers have announced that they're going to be holding a special evening event on October 3rd during Wool Week. If you happen to be planning on going to Wool Week as well, it will have a light dinner. There will be a fiddler and an accordion player. And then there'll also be a lot of opportunity to get around and talk to some of the MRI makers themselves and get to know some local knitters in the area. I have a ticket already. I plan to be there. I'm very excited to get to meet Harriet and the other makers and talk to them a little bit about what life is like in Shetland and maybe pick up a few tips from them. So if you are interested in joining me in this event, the information is at mrimakers.com and it's £10 each for tickets. Right now they have released just a limited number of tickets. They're still waiting on the final word of how many people will be allowed in the space that they've rented for the event. So while they wait, they've released some tickets and then more will open. So if it ends up being sold out initially, you can keep checking back and look for additional tickets. But I think this is a great opportunity. I know looking at my own schedule for Wool Week, I'm going to be very, very busy, and I was lucky enough to get into quite a few classes, but I am looking forward to a chance to have an evening to speak with some of the local Shetlanders and maybe make a few new friends. Our giveaway this time is going to have 3 winners, and each of them will have a chance to receive a download code for the pattern for either Harriet's Hat or Harriet's Headband. The winner can decide which you want. The next episode will go live a few days after the Morehouse Knit Along goes live, but you should be able to get the pattern downloaded in plenty of time to still participate. Here's what you need to do to enter. It's going to be the same as last time because people loved having an email option. I got so many email entries. So here's what you can do. Find the giveaway entry on Instagram and like the post. That's an entry. Comment on the post. That's another entry. Tag as many people as you want for 1 entry each, but tag them each in a different comment. And please only tag someone once. Okay? I don't want people to feel harassed by the giveaway. So if you tag, at Anne, only tag them once. Don't come back a day or 2 later and tag them again. That's not quite fair to them. Share it to your feed or stories, but make sure you tag at I Thought I Knew How so that I see it. If I don't get tagged, I can't see it and count the entry. If you're not on Instagram or if you'd like an extra entry, send me an email to ann@familypodcasts.com with hat or headband in the subject line. And if you want to say hi as you're doing it, but I'll accept an empty email too. I will have Siri pick 3 random numbers on July 26th to choose the winners. You'll each have 30 days to get back to me with your preference for the hat pattern or the headband pattern, and then I'll send you the code. This one is open to anyone with an email address I can send the pattern download information to. So enter and spread the word to your friends. Listeners outside the US, this is your chance to get in on a giveaway. In the meantime, thank you for listening and knitting with me for a bit. If you would like to contact me, you can email me at ann@familypodcasts.com. That's Ann with an E at familypodcasts.com. Look for me on social media as I Thought I Knew How, except on Twitter, where it's just Thought I Knew How. The Facebook and Ravelry groups are both called I Thought I Knew How Podcast, and the website for the show is ithoughtIknewhow.familypodcasts.com. There you will find the show notes for each episode. Please consider doing some charity knitting this summer by visiting knittingforcharity.org. There will be a link in the show notes for that. If you are a musician or know one and would like to have a song featured on the program, drop me an email and point me to where I can hear your music. You need to be the copyright holder to be able to grant permission, so please bear that in mind. Until next time, may you be blessed with stitches that never drop, yarn without joins, and plenty of time to knit.